Hey everyone, this is part 2 of our interview with actor, writer, and all-around creative David Hoffman. And I love it. Have you ever seen or heard someone called an overnight success who seemingly came out of nowhere? The truth is that they are often not an overnight success, that actually they put in years of hard work and probably learned some tough lessons along the way, applying what was useful and probably adding what was uniquely their own. I think that's a Bruce Lee quote I'm stealing from, but it doesn't matter. Where our last episode was more technical, David sharing about how he booked his role in the massive Liberty Mutual campaign, this one is more emotionally intelligent. We led with the more technical episode because a majority of our listeners are here, as many of us probably are with podcasts, to hear what worked, what literally happened that led to someone's success. But it could be argued that it's more valuable to understand the mindset of someone who's achieved something that you may want. And David opens up and shares some insightful and authentic truths with us here in part 2. Please trust me, this is good. David articulates and says some things that I think a lot of us have thought about and maybe haven't had the courage to say publicly or even admit to ourselves, and I hope you get something out of it. So without further ado, here we go.
A garden of pure ideology.
Yeah, just your typical Super Bowl car ad.
Or a hilarious beer ad.
Break was over 15 minutes ago, Mitch!
I think you're the best ever.
Look out. Back up. Where are you?
You're in the bush.
Well, how am I supposed to know? I've never been there.
I don't always drink beer, but when I do...
I think we're going to be here a while.
I find that the more honest I am in my work, the more people actually deeply connect with it. That where if I had just said, I just try to write some funny shit and I, just try it and whatever, some of it works, some of it doesn't. But like, maybe somebody would connect with that. But like, this is stuff that can actually affect when I think honesty is the key to anything. And I think with any kind of creation, any kind of creativity, I think the hump every creator has to get over, I think, is fear. This fear of, am I willing to share myself, my deepest, darkest feelings, secrets, thoughts, and take the chance that I could be judged, shamed, ridiculed, laughed at in a bad way, or whatever. And once you can get over that hump and say, it's okay, I'm just going to do it, then you create stuff that actually can make a difference in people's lives, even if it's just to make them smile and laugh. But there's that hump to get over. Otherwise, and I think there is a lot of material out there that kind of just goes surface. And sometimes, even like my wife sometimes will be like, oh, I just need a chick flick. I just need something mindless right now. And so there is a market for that. But yeah, I don't like to create that stuff. And I just think it's so much more fulfilling as a writer, a filmmaker, a creator to dig deep. And it doesn't have to be this emotional catharsis, but it's just where you go, no, I'm going to tell the truth here. I'm going to really tell the truth.
On one hand, it kind of makes me feel like a fraud sometimes because I'm like, why is the only good stuff, the stuff that why can't I just fabricate something that is as effective as something where you're getting really close to home on like something that either happened or you experienced or you felt. And I know that like the autobiographies don't play well, but when people figure out how to inject the stuff, like you're saying, into your work, yeah, man, thank you for sharing that part too.
You're recently married.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your wife's name?
Megan.
So she knows all of you and you didn't, because I used to in relationships kind of even unconsciously just try to be like an actor, get the part. And, even in like the early dating where it's like, okay, I want to make sure they know I'm worthy and I'm good. And I'm exactly, okay, it sounds like she likes this. So I'll do that. Oh, it sounds like she doesn't like that. So I better, clamp down that part of myself and it would be a disaster. It would be a mess.
Yeah.
And yet, so then the flip that I made, the reason I was able to meet and connect and marry my wife was that I said, no, I'm going to be me. So I can meet somebody who actually, I can just relax and be myself. Yeah. And she actually loves who I actually am. And I was able to then see her and she felt safe being herself. So you've been able to do that in probably the most important relationship in your life. So that means that's scarier to me than in your art. Now in your art and your work, it's like, all right, well, fuck it. I'm going to be me, and you're going to find your audience the way you found your wife. So yeah, it might eliminate a segment of the population who's like, I don't like that Cody. He talked about some stuff that I don't get or whatever. But then you're going to get hardcore fans like Megan is of you as a human, of your work, who are like, wow, yeah, I want to watch whatever he's making because this is speaking to me.
Dave, you're dropping pearl bombs on me, man. That's awesome. That's really profound. I have actually never heard before. And that's a really, oh man, it's kind of like social media, which I'm excited to joke about, talking about why you left and how that's going. But I noticed a few years ago, like maybe you saw this too, but there was a bit of a shift where people started doing weird things to please everyone. People started behaving in disingenuous ways to, and maybe people you even know, and you just look at it and you're like, that's not you. Why are you doing that? You know, what happened? What is this? Why are you posting bikini photos? You were a writer. And it's not that somebody can't do that, but you can tell the difference, right? When someone's just having a good time versus going for likes.
Sometimes, I don't know if you've ever had this where like, yeah, I can even joke with somebody about it, be like, what are you doing with that? And their response, I don't know if this is heartening or disheartening. They go, I know, I have to do it. I know it's so stupid. I have to do it. And it's like, I'm not, and you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But there's also this thing, like in the past few years, last few years in LA, anytime I asked anybody for advice, whether it was a publicist friend or a successful friend, whatever it was, oh man, how can I get more people to see my stuff? And I kept expecting some really profound answer. And they would all go, you know, it's the way it's social media. You got to just I know it sucks, I'm not a fan of doing something that starts with, I know this sucks. I know you hate this. I know you don't want to do this. And it's like, well, then I'm not going to do it. Because anytime I even dipped my toe in, I felt gross. And I just felt like this and I would still try to do it my way. And they'd be like, yeah, you can still do it your way. And then it just felt like I was pandering and begging. And I didn't like it. And it's crazy out because you're exactly right. You'll see somebody who you think you know, and then they'll post something and you're like, oh, I didn't realize, or they're really angry, or they're really, they do bikini stuff. I didn't know that or whatever. And then if you ask them about it, they're just, oh, it's so stupid. I know. As if to say like, don't worry, that's not really me. That's just this persona I do. And it's like, well, that's not what the people who don't know you, who are following you, think. They think that that's you and you're presenting as that. One of the reasons I got off social media is because I enjoy thinking. Like I think I'm a thinker and I like to think about things, think about all angles of stuff and kind of work through it. And I found on social media, even when I wasn't posting, and I didn't follow a ton of people, but there's so many hot takes on any issue or newsworthy item. The hot takes come so fast that it's so easy to get influenced by them that you don't get a chance to be like, what do I think about this? Let me get all the perspectives, especially because like normally on social media, you have a bit of an echo chamber. You have people who think similar to you. And so then if you go on there and all of a sudden you're getting bombarded with, this is how I feel about this. This is how I feel about this stuff. Then you feel like, okay, I guess I feel about, and if you even try to think about it on your own, you're so heavily influenced by everybody else and what they think about it, you don't get a chance to form your own opinions. And I quit back in May. And since then, I mean, I was never addicted to it. I was never on it that often, but just being completely free of it, I just find that like, I'm so much more calm and grounded and free. I just feel like I am a person on this earth that's allowed to experience it and on my own and have my own opinions. And I don't have to fit into anybody else. I don't have to feel shame or judged for thinking differently than anybody else. And I can just come to conclusions on my own. And it's really enlightening to be able to like let things play out in my mind and be like, okay, and then what does that remind me of? Oh, okay. Oh, why are they reacting like that? Oh, I remember that from my childhood and blah, 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 blah. You can just kind of really be more connected to stuff that's going on.
When I got out of the Army, which I didn't know you were an Army kid, I went straight to LA after my not straight to LA. almost straight to LA after my second deployment. I thought I wanted to be an actor, right? It's because I didn't know anything about anything. And that was the big thing. I think this was 2012. And that's when I think Instagram had just kind of like burst onto the scene a little bit. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's when the social media conversation was beginning. I got an agent and a manager by sneaking into their office because I had, it was Garrett Hedlund's old manager, and I saw Tron, and I was like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And they were banging the drum of social media really hard. And they were just, and even then it's just gotten way more intense since then. And you can commit to something for years, and you might wake up and be like, what am I even doing? Why am I posting this stuff at all?
Yeah, that's a great point, the committing to something for years. Because I look back on, I was in LA for 20 years, and, I had done 5 years of classical conservatory training.
Did you really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. But the funny thing is, all that training, it did teach me a lot of stuff, mostly about being a professional. But I didn't really learn about acting until probably when was it? 5 years ago, when I took a new class where, and when I was going into that class, because I was walking across the street, I had asked for some recommendations for an acting class where they keep it real. And I was walking across the street to meet the teacher. We were going to have an audit, like a half-hour audit. And I just got this lightning bolt in my head, and I stopped in my tracks, and this voice just said to me, it was my own voice, but it said, don't try to be the best in this class. Don't try to win. Just try to learn as much as you can. And for me, that was a huge shift, because through all those 5 years of actor training, movement classes, voice classes, acting classes, and then pretty much a lot of my career was just trying to nail it. Yeah. Get the lines right, do it right, get your mark, make sure you give emotion and all this stuff. And I had never had a teacher that was like, let's find the part of you that connects with this character and face some fears. And when the light bulb went on in that class, it changed my life. This idea of learn how to act and see if you love it, and then go from there. Yeah. And it's kind of like you're talking about, like you can sell the poster and the concept and the title and all this, and people get excited. It's like, well, where's the soul of it? For me, I was doing work that matched my commitment to the craft. And nothing against the work I was doing, but I was doing a lot of Nickelodeon shows and sitcoms and things like that kind of matched. Yeah, I fit in those things because I wasn't digging deeper. I wasn't finding the soul of these things because there wasn't a lot of soul in those things. And then once I started discovering acting for real, which was such a pride thing, because I was like, I spent 5 years training, and then I was a groundling. I know everything there is to know about acting. I'm at the top of the mountain. And when I was humble enough to say, I think I might be able to learn something more, it opened up a whole world that I couldn't even imagine if I had been willing to go there when I was 22. So when I was in college, my big thing was, at senior year, you get to do the showcase. So our program will go to New York City, and we will do monologues and scenes for casting directors and agents, and then it'll take off. And so I stayed for 4 years waiting for that, just thinking this is going to be, because that's the path. I had it all planned out. I went, I did the showcase. We did one in LA. Crickets, just nothing, not a single lead. And then it was like, okay, time to regroup. And then I went to New York and basically just worked double shifts at restaurants to pay the rent. And then I was like, well, this isn't working. I'm not an actor anymore. So then I moved to LA where the rent was cheaper and started auditioning for, I got the first play I auditioned for, and it was a big role, and that was great. And then I was like, okay, that's the thing. I'm going to get cast in a play. It will get a great review. And because I had heard stories like that. And then from the reviews, I'll get a big agent, or an agent will come to the show, and then that'll be it. So I did that show, and the reviews were lukewarm. No agents came. So I was like, shit, I got to get another one. So I got another play. It didn't happen. So then I was like, okay, Chaz Palminteri was a struggling actor. And then he wrote a one-man show, and then it got optioned to be a Bronx Tale. It was a movie. He played the gangster, and now he's a big star. I'll write a one-man show. So I wrote a one-man show. I put myself in huge debt, and it was I didn't dig that deep. And then, 8 people showed up and nothing came from. So I kept coming up with, what is the path? And then finally it was Groundlings. I'm going to do the Groundlings. I'm going to do all the classes. I'm going to get in the Sunday company. I'm going to get in the main company. I'm going to get on SNL, and then I'll be all set. And you know what? That was many years of my life, because I did the classes. I got in the Sunday company. I got in the main company, and then the SNL thing didn't happen. So I was like, something else has to happen. And I'm not saying any of this was wasted time, but I do wonder if when I was 22, I went straight to a real acting class instead of saying, I already know how to act. I learned that. And then the social media thing, which I never did get all on board with, but I would hear, younger actors or new to town actors, and they're like, well, I got to get my numbers up, because a few people, maybe a good number, came out of nowhere, got big social media followings, and then they got cast in a show. So then that's the thing. So agents and everybody, all the advice is, that's how you do it. If nobody knows who you are, do it through social media. It's a do-it-yourself thing, and you're going to make it. And then so many people hear that and are like, okay, that's the new path. Because I heard a stat that 60,000 people show up in LA every year trying to make it in the entertainment industry. And we're all looking for that path. What is the path? Because I have no idea what I'm doing, and I need to get there. Somebody just give me a roadmap.
Yeah.
And a lot of these roadmaps, you got to bail on them early before you get in, too deep.
It's nice to hear it from you with all your experience. I didn't even know about some of that other stuff, like Groundlings. I didn't catch that, and especially that you went so far into it. But because, I think I remember I walked in there when I was 23 or 24, and, you see the pictures of Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig on the wall. And I was like, okay, just do what they did,
yeah,
and you'll be fine. And I started it, but I ended up in the same position, like one waiting job turned into 2 waiting jobs, turned into 2 waiting jobs plus whatever I could squeeze in after that. And I was like, this isn't working anymore. And again, it was kind of like a, what is the path thing?
Yeah.
And I was talking to a producer friend about this the other day she was like, hey, same situation. She was like, Cody, I got a guy who wants to put like a lot of money into your project. Can you send me the script? And I was like, I cannot, there's no script. I'm working on it. And I said, she really was digging into me. It's like a good friend. And she got this answer out of me that I kind of forgot about, this like thing that was sleeping. And I ended up admitting, and I was like, I kind of forgot that the whole reason I got into filmmaking is because I got so discouraged in LA when I was 24. I was like, this isn't going to work. Like, I don't want to do these things that they're asking of me. And I don't want to get competitive at these things that I think are stupid, like social media. Why don't I just do what Stallone did and do it myself? And I've spent so many years learning filmmaking. I really just forgot. Like, I don't even know if I have interest in being, you know what? That's a lie. You're being honest with me. I should be honest with you. Of course, I still fantasize about it. I'd say that I'm already critiquing myself, because I don't want to be embarrassed by saying those things. I'm trying to practice.
Right. No, but you caught it.
Yeah, I'm trying to be honest about it. But yeah, I spent so much time on the path that I thought was the path to make it happen. I just forgot. Why I was on it. And maybe I'd be embarrassed to ask them because I wouldn't want to potentially hurt anyone. But I mean, I met other friends in LA who were actors when I first moved there, and now they're like social media tycoons. But sometimes I wonder, I'm like, is that even no matter how much money you're making, is this what you wanted?
Well, I'm a very sensitive person. Like one of the main reasons I left LA, like I could feel other people's energy big time, and LA and those audition waiting rooms are so tense, and there's so much nervous energy and desperation and wanting to please. Like, it's overpowering, and it's hard to be around, and it's hard to stay centered and grounded and focused and calm and happy when you're surrounded by that.
Yeah.
Towards the end of my time there, I just started to feel real sadness, genuine sadness, because I would see lovely human beings who I know are warm-hearted. We all are. We're all born these wonderful glowing balls of light. But then I would just see them so insecure and doubting themselves and just hoping, please let them like me. Please let them like me. And, that takes different forms. It takes, some people end up looking bitter or angry, and some people are just so desperate. And it's just when you can feel it. And I think that LA to me became this place where, like, there's a lot of ghosts of broken dreams floating around.
Wow.
Because a lot of people came there with big dreams. And I look at how I started adjusting my dream, like, I love the camaraderie of acting, and I love acting, and I want to do big things. I want to play these characters. And suddenly it's like, if I could just get this one line on this sitcom that I don't watch, my life will be amazing. And
right.
I remember once I met this doctor he met me and he's like, oh, what do you do? I was like, oh, I'm an actor. And at the time I was doing a show in England. So I had some success. And he's like, oh, my daughter's an actor. I was like, oh, that's great. And he's like, yeah, she just got new headshots because she got a new haircut. And immediately I was like, oh boy. And just because I know you're wasting money. And then he's like, she was struggling for a while, but things are looking good. I was like, oh, that's great. So then he keeps telling me, and he's like, that show Dancing with the Stars? I was like, yeah. He goes, she is now the stand-in for one of the judges. Like when they have a break, she sits in their chair, so she gets to be on the set. And I just remember, like, it broke my heart. And I was thinking, like, now she's convinced her dad that this is a step up.
Yeah.
And I just know, like, when she moved to LA or came to LA, like, maybe she was the star of the high school play. That's why she was like, this is what I love about acting. I get to play this role and inhabit it and do this. And then you get to LA and it's like, okay, that's what I want. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, until I get there, I'm okay with taking a supporting role. Okay, you know what? I'll do a supporting role with a non-paid. Okay, I can't get that. I will do and then it just goes. And then it gets down to the point where, like, I just need to celebrate a win. Let me get this job waiting tables at this restaurant. Yes! I beat out some other actors and I got a job. And the bar just gets lower and lower and lower, that you forget what it is you love and what you came there to do. And then it's like, no, I committed to this. I need to see it through. And I have a win. So that means it's going in the right direction. And I'm not telling people to quit, but it's also like, adjust. Like, are you happy doing this? Or what makes you happy? Why don't you stick to that? And don't think that the phrase I heard all the time was like, well, I have to do this. It's good for, my career. Or I had agents back in the day who would say things like, I know, but you know what? It's good. This casting director will then know you, and it's good. You're going to build. And it's like, but I feel dead inside. So don't make me do this.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much compromising of integrity and ideals that goes on that gets in the way of artistic expression and happiness.
In light of this year, which is fun because I want to come to George Washington, I just realized I talked to Megan. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, all we are talking about is the news. And I know it's bad, and I know it sucks, and I know we had to do things to prepare, but I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to know about it anymore. And that factored into our decision to, like, getting out of Austin and just kind of going off grid for, I think, my own thoughts.
Yeah.
It's the highlight of my day. I help her dad, like, wet the track, right? Because you got to keep it really soft and sandy for the horses. It's one of the highlights of my day. Because the tractor is too loud for me to listen to a podcast or an audiobook or music. Yeah. So all I can do is think for almost an hour.
Yeah.
Whole hour thinking my own thoughts. And it's the most creative time that I have almost every day.
It happened a few years ago where I was like, I'm not bringing my phone into the bedroom overnight. And the first night it was like, okay, where is it? And then I was over it, and then I didn't need it. And then, and then it's gotten further and further. And, like, my ringer is off all day long. I never have my ringer on, and I usually leave my phone.
It's so awesome.
It's amazing because I'm actually, I'm Walden Ponding it. I'm actually seeing things and getting perspective as I dig into my own soil and bury seeds and harvest the crop. And I don't have a farm, but I have a big garden. And then I built a trail in the forest, and just, you're walking in the forest, and it's like, we think it's progress, all the technology and stuff. And it is, a lot of it is, but, like, kind of the addiction. There's people in LA would always be like, I'm addicted to my phone, as if it's like addiction is a strong word, and addiction kills people, and it ruins lives, and it ruins marriages, and it ruins relationships. And being addicted to anything is going to be rough, probably. And people are addicted to their phones. They're addicted to, I read this great book Matt Taibbi wrote called Hate Inc. And it's all about the news and tracing it back to how basically what the news is now, whether you're on the right or left or wherever, it's tune in and they're going to tell you how crazy and terrible everything is. And then by the end of the segment or the hour, they're saying, oh my God, hang in there, but you got to come back tomorrow because we're gonna tell you how to solve it, basically is what it is, over and over again. And he was saying how Walter Cronkite used to sign off by saying like, that's all there is to know, or something like that, kind of being like, all right, forget it now, go about your lives. And now with the phones and the 24-hour news cycle, people are just constantly checking in, and the news sources love it. So they're like, we got to keep giving them what the red meat is. We got to keep giving. So then when you separate yourself from that and say, I'm jumping out of that loop, suddenly you see how crazy the loop is, and you see people wrapped up in it, and you're like, oh no. And now I can't connect with you anymore because you're in that loop. And it's become hard. Like I'm looking for the people that are at least trying to get away from it, and the people who have gotten away from it, because it becomes quickly evident when I meet somebody who is deep in it, when I'm like, hey, how you doing? Oh God, did you hear what he did today, or whatever it is? And it's like, oh man, I just want to connect with you right now. I don't want to connect with your angst. And connection, my two things I'm searching for in life, connection and truth. Because then we can have real interactions, and we can create stuff, and we can, be present in the same place. But when people are just caught up in their own things and their own angst, it's really hard to make a human connection, which is what I think keeps us alive and vibrant and creating.
Yeah. Have you ever stopped to think about how humorous it might be that we are passionately having conversations, passionately interested? I'm like loving what you're saying. I'm like, a trail, a conversation just between us, not about a garden. Look at my door that I built. Like, we almost sound stupid because the simplest things are so exciting now, because they're not that like all that other stuff that we're talking about. The idea of a conversation, like these things that maybe 10 years ago you wouldn't care about. Be like, nobody wants to hear about your blueberry pie, Mom.
Right.
Now I would so much rather hear about something like that than whatever he did today or whatever is going on. I mean, yeah, I'm so much more interested now in the most mundane things like these. I'm bugging Megan's dad all the time about the horses. I didn't care. I mean, that's got nothing to do with anything that I want to do. And I'm just I'm like a child fascinated in simple things now, because I want to get something that's not coming from Twitter so badly.
Well, yeah. And we're curious beings. Like spiritually, I really believe, we're put on this earth, and like, we're here to figure it out somehow. And so we're curious. And, if you have teachers or parents who are like, this is how it is, and that's the only way it is, don't ask any questions, then that's tough. But if you have people who are like, keep asking questions, keep learning. Like, you're not a horse guy, but like, it's fascinating. Like, you want to know about the shoes, and you want to know about the hooves and the dirt and why it needs to be wet, because it's new. Our brains will just atrophy if we're not taking in new information. And like, it doesn't mean you have to take in boring information, but if something's interesting, then we should be asking questions. And the great, like what you were just saying, how like we're yearning for just simple information. Like in Arthur Miller's book, he's talking about in the, when he was growing up in the 30s and 40s, dinner, you had to go to the butcher shop. You had to pick out the chicken that you wanted. Mm-hmm. They would then kill the chicken, pluck the feathers, cut it up. And then if you wanted a fish, you pointed to one in the tank, they pulled it out, and like shit took time. And then when you were going to get your clothes or your sheets washed, his mom had a gigantic thing on the stove of boiling water and a huge oar, and they're mixing the lawn, like stuff took time. They did not have time to look at their Twitter or figure out or kvetch about who did what and what's going on. Like, you actually had to spend time. So now everything is so easy. And yet people can still complain about it. Oh my God, it takes forever. My phone's not loading. It's taking forever. And these things that so we have so much time on our hands that we can find everything and anything to complain about, to worry about, instead of just like, well, I'll give you something to worry about. You have no food, or your clothes are dirty and it's going to take you 6 hours to wash them. Like, but there's so little to worry about. But like the human, I guess, tendency is like, I need to find something to be really upset about and worried about.
Yeah.
So I've got time.
Did you have a good experience with David?
David Gordon Green? Yeah, amazing.
I got a little intimidated. Well, I didn't know who he was either, right? Like I didn't know the name. I had just seen the guy. And, but I didn't know he was like Pineapple Express, David Gordon Green, and
Right,
you know
right.
the other things that he's done. And I was just working hard, you know, that like you do when you want the next job. And he just started talking to me one day, and he was like, "Hey, man, like, what's your deal? You know, what do you do?" And I had my very terrible reply, which is the non-answer, where you don't tell somebody who can actually help you what it is you want to do. So they basically
Right.
just have to smile and nod until you're done running your mouth, which is the problem I have. But like when you're trying to do too much, and the truth of what you're gobbing out is like, I just want to make it, you know, really,
Right,
it's
right.
not a good answer. And he was like, "Oh, okay. And, you know, and he was like, I want to introduce you to my producer, Brandon, you know, so he introduced, and that was nice. So I was like, man, this guy's really nice. And I had slipped a comment. I was like, I don't know if I want to do it here. I feel like it would be smarter to try and film elsewhere, but you know, I need to stay here and I'll make it work here. And he goes, man, F this town. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah. He was like, this place sucks. He's like, I don't like it here. He's like, I lived in Austin for the last few years, but I'm taking my family to Charleston, South Carolina. He's like, I'm getting the heck out of here as soon as I can. He's like, I just come here to work. And I was like, wow, I wish I had answered him honestly and just said like, hey, I want to try to make it work elsewhere too, rather than battling all of this, because he thought, you know, the same thing. And just by being shy and fraudulent, I didn't miss an opportunity. It was just cool to hear it from him, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he's giving you advice.
Yeah, pretty well. I don't even think he was saying it, but I think he was just talking to me, kind of like what you and I were talking about. He just shared his opinion. He was like, I don't want to deal with the stresses of LA, you know, and this is back, you know, pre-2020 LA, the escape from LA version of LA that's there now.
It's the have to disease that everybody has, where like they convince themselves, I have to. You did it with David Gordon Green. You're like, well, you know, I'd like to, but I have to be here. And it's this hypnosis we're under it's this dream from the 60s. LA is where it's at, man. You got to be there.
Yeah.
And maybe it was true. And honestly, like, I don't regret that I was there because of everything I learned and like the job that I have now. Like I got in LA, and life is bigger than, you know, whatever you think your career is supposed to be. It's about being happy.
Yeah.
And I think people get those really confused sometimes in places like LA and New York, especially, where it's like, no, yes, I may not be happy, but I'm sorry, I have to be here. I chose a career. And it's like, well, this career is making you miserable. And I'm not saying to stop that career, but like, why don't you go after your happiness first? And then everything will work itself out. It really will.
Yeah. I think there's something really scary about possibly having woken up 25 years down the road and thought, oh no, I could have lived a whole life and I spent it all here just trying to make this work. And I don't think I'm happy for it.
What you're describing, I think, applies to a lot of marriages where it's 25 years later and they're like, oh my God, I've been trying to make this thing work. And we never even knew each other from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's all relationships. I had a relationship with LA. I had a 20-year relationship with that city. And then I had to wake up and be like, this isn't working. And I got divorced. I divorced the city.
No, another thing about being in LA, though, is like saying, I have to be here. There were several moments where I made a connection. Like I'll tell you one vaguely, you know, without name dropping to be obnoxious. But I couldn't believe the situation I was in, staying at someone's pool house. And somehow my trailer from film school got brought up. And he and his agent and his agent's assistant, we all watched it in his studio. And his manager turns around. He's like, dude, that's awesome. Where's the full version of that movie? And I was like, oh, it's not a movie. I just, you know, I cut it together. He was like, nice. Where's the script? And I was like, oh, there's no script. And he's like, do you have anything? And I was like, no, I don't have anything. He was like, oh, okay. And he just kind of fizzles out. And that was a real kind of like crack in the bell moment for me. Cause I was like, wait a second, I can meet anybody, but if I haven't actually done anything,
right? What
am I? Like, what do I have to, how am I going to move forward with any of this? And that's when I realized I need to try and like get in a position of creating something, you know, so that you can be at the helm.
Yeah.
I'm going to get us out of here, dude. Thank you. Thanks a ton, man. I really thank you for like all the cool what a pleasant surprise it was to get all that like meaningful stuff.
Yeah.
We need to figure out how to get everybody to share that real stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're easy to talk to, so it's, I felt safe, and that's a big thing. So if you're,
I asked no questions, by the way. I think it's so hard for me because we've only done this about 4 times, and it's such a long list of questions. I'm like, man, this is all stuff I want to know, but it's an hour and a half conversation every time. And I'm like, what are the ones that matter them? We got to none of them, but your stuff was better.
I'd be curious to know how this affects you with your project and your movie idea, and if you're able to. I think you will be able to dig deep. Just remember that thing about how your wife accepts you for who you are, and so your audience will as well.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this interview with David Hoffman. We got a lot out of it, and I hope you got something out of it too. I'd say to go follow David somewhere, but if you made it this far, you heard that David has escaped the shackles of social media. So just enjoy seeing him on the Liberty Mutual commercials and whatever he ends up booking next. From Cry, a creative production and post-production house in New York City, I'm Cody, and this is Filmmakers in Advertising. Hey, if you would be so kind, please swing by one of our social media pages, Instagram or Facebook, to let us know who you'd like to hear from next. We have casting directors and entertainment lawyers and agency producers queued up who we're very excited to speak with, but it takes a little time to get out episodes, in case you haven't noticed, and we just want to know who you are more excited to hear from first.